The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the viewing deck of the diplomatic vessel, Vigilant. Ambassador Karen Phillips stood motionless, hands clasped behind her back, her silhouette stark against the backdrop of Earth's blue sphere. The year was 2352 AD, and humanity had reached a crossroads nearly 3 centuries in the making. "They're approaching the outer boundary now, Ambassador," said Captain Jake Morrison, his weathered face illuminated by the soft glow of tactical displays. 5,000 ships, just as intelligence reported. Karen nodded, her silver-streaked hair catching the light. "And still no response to our communiques?" "None, ma'am. The coalition appears intent on making a statement." The bridge crew of the Vigilant maintained their stations with practiced efficiency, but Karen could sense their unease. Earth's orbital defense platforms, officially designated as scientific outposts in all galactic registries, maintained their benign appearance. Luna's crater bases remained sealed. Mars's colonial domes stood unassuming against the red landscape. The asteroid belt mining operations continued their methodical work, all according to plan. "Open a channel," Karen said, straightening her formal diplomatic uniform. "Wide broadcast, all frequencies, all languages." "Channel open, Ambassador," replied Communications Officer Patel. On the main view screen, 3 figures materialized. The triumvirate of the coalition forces. War Prime Zethor of the Hegemony stood center, his reptilian scales gleaming under artificial light, flanked by Admiral Valena of the Crystalline Dominion to his right, her translucent form refracting light in hypnotic patterns, and General Mordak of the Void Seekers to his left. A shadow-given form, edges blurring into the darkness behind him. "Ambassador Phillips," Zethor's voice rumbled, mandibles clicking with barely contained disdain. "Your species' defiance continues to amuse us." Karen maintained an impassive expression. "War Prime, Admiral, General, I speak as Earth's appointed representative, and with the full authority of the United Solar Government. You stand at the threshold of sovereign human space with an armada that can only be interpreted as hostile." "Sovereign?" Admiral Valena's crystalline voice chimed like breaking glass. "Emerging species do not claim sovereignty. They earn their place, or they serve those who have already earned theirs. We've monitored your civilization for decades," added General Mordak, his voice eerily distant, yet somehow intimate. "Your technological capabilities are quaint. Your military presence minimal. Your colonies fragile. You have nothing with which to back your claim of sovereignty." Karen took a deliberate step forward. "Then, I offer you this one opportunity. Withdraw your forces beyond the Kuiper Belt within 72 Earth hours, or face annihilation." A moment of silence fell across the bridge before Zethor erupted in laughter, joined by Valena's tinkling amusement and Mordak's whispering chuckle. "Annihilation?" Zethor repeated, mandibles spread wide. "With what? Your retrofitted cargo ships? Your museum-piece orbital platforms? Your scattered planetary outposts? You have been observed thoroughly. Humans." Valena continued. "Your species spends more resources on art and philosophy than weapons. Your ships are unarmed or minimally defended. Your colonies are open, without fortification. Even your transmissions betray you." Mordak added, 90% of your communications discuss trade, science, and entertainment, not the profile of a militarized society." Karen's expression remained unchanged. "I've delivered Earth's message, and we deliver ours," Zethor countered. "You have 72 hours to demonstrate that your warning holds substance. Otherwise, we begin annexation of your outer planets, followed by systematic occupation of your colonies. Those who resist will be eliminated as examples." The transmission cut, leaving Karen staring at Earth once more. For several heartbeats, no one on the bridge spoke. Captain Morrison moved to her side. "They took the bait, Ambassador." "Yes," Karen replied quietly. "They did. Let's hope 50 years of preparation was enough. Send the signal. Protocol 7 is now active. Morrison nodded and pressed his wrist communicator. All stations. This is Captain Morrison. The ambassador has authorized Protocol 7. Authentication code: Sierra Tango Romeo India Kilo Echo. I repeat, Protocol 7 is active. The simple message would now cascade through hidden channels, reaching every corner of the solar system. And with it, humanity's true face would begin to emerge. Karen turned to the bridge crew. I need to contact President Blake and General Carter. The galaxy is about to learn why Earth warned them we were holding back. As the Vigilant broke orbit and accelerated toward Luna, Karen Phillips silently hoped the coalition would recognize their error and withdraw. But 50 years of intelligence suggested otherwise. They would probe, test, and push, confident in their superiority. And humanity would be waiting. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter had always been a place of contradictions, barren yet rich with resources, empty yet crowded with millions of rocky bodies tumbling through the void. To the galactic community, it represented merely another mining opportunity for Earth's growing economy. Captain Ben Parker stood inside Control Module Alpha of Ceres Station, watching as his mining crew executed the transformation with practiced precision. What had appeared to be excavation equipment for the past 15 years, now reconfigured with mechanical precision, revealing weapons emplacements, shield generators, and propulsion systems previously hidden in plain sight. Status report, Parker ordered, his voice calm despite the tension evident in the set of his shoulders. Defensive grid at 60% and climbing. Captain, replied his second-in-command. All 37 stations throughout the belt report similar progress. We'll be combat ready within the hour. Parker nodded, studying the tactical display. The outermost probes had already detected a coalition scout force entering the belt, exactly as predicted. They would be expecting to find scattered, vulnerable mining operations, easy targets to demonstrate the coalition's resolve. Maintain camouflage protocols until they're within the engagement zone, Parker ordered. Let's give our visitors the welcome they deserve. Across the asteroid belt, seemingly innocuous mining platforms continued their disguised operations. Drilling equipment transforming into missile batteries, processing centers revealing themselves as command and control nodes, cargo haulers unfolding into battle cruisers. 12 hours after Protocol 7's activation, the Coalition Scout Force, 50 vessels strong, moved deeper into the belt. Weapons charged, but still confident in their overwhelming advantage against what they perceived as defenseless civilian operations. Coalition vessels now entering Kill Zone Alpha, announced Tactical Officer Reyes, reading weapons hot on all approaching ships. Parker watched the holographic display as red markers representing coalition vessels spread throughout the predetermined engagement area. All stations, maintain operational camouflage. Let them get comfortable. The minutes ticked by as coalition ships positioned themselves around what they believed to be key mining facilities, preparing to issue demands for surrender, followed by a demonstration of force against any who resisted. Coalition flagship is broadcasting, reported communications. They're ordering all mining stations to power down and prepare for boarding. Parker allowed himself a small smile. Send the acknowledgement signal. Make it sound frightened. The communications officer transmitted a suitably panicked response, buying precious additional seconds as the final defense systems came online. All stations report ready, Captain, Tactical announced. Combat configurations complete. Parker took a deep breath. Execute Phase 1. Weapons free. Throughout the asteroid belt, the illusion of vulnerable mining operations vanished in an instant. Hidden weapon ports opened across the surface of each station. Cloaked defense platforms decloaked between strategic asteroids. Cargo haulers transformed into heavily armed escort vessels. The Coalition Scout Force had only moments to register their surprise before the first salvo struck. Precision-guided quantum torpedoes, technology the Coalition believed humanity incapable of developing, streaked across space. Defensive energy barriers shimmered into existence around formerly helpless mining platforms. Direct hits across the board. Tactical reported with professional detachment. 27 enemy vessels disabled or destroyed in initial salvo. On the command display, Parker watched as the remaining coalition ships attempted to regroup, their formation disintegrating under unexpected fire from multiple directions. Their return fire, hasty and poorly coordinated, splashed harmlessly against shields they hadn't known existed. Second salvo away. Tactical announced, coalition forces attempting to retreat. Negative, Parker countered. Activate gravity wells. No one leaves until we've made our point. Hidden generators throughout the belt activated, creating localized disruptions in space-time that prevented faster-than-light jumps and severely hampered sublight engines. The Coalition Scout Force, suddenly understanding their predicament, fought with increasing desperation. Within 30 minutes, it was over. Of the 50 vessels that had entered the asteroid belt, only 5 remained operational, and these only because Parker had ordered his forces to leave them intact. "Open a channel to the remaining ships," Parker ordered. The face of a hegemony commander appeared on screen. Scales darkened with what Parker recognized as the reptilian equivalent of pallor. "This is Captain Ben Parker of Earth Defense Force Asteroid Division. You entered sovereign human territory against explicit warnings. This was our response. The 5 vessels we've left operational will carry our message back to your fleet. This was merely our first line of defense. Turn back now." Without waiting for a reply, Parker cut the transmission. "Let them go," he ordered. "Deactivate gravity wells along their exit vector only." As the surviving coalition ships limped away from the asteroid belt, Parker opened a secure channel to Mars Command. "Asteroid belt defense complete. First contact successfully repelled. They're heading your way. Commander Rodriguez. Don't disappoint them." On the surface of Mars, Commander Amy Rodriguez watched the data stream from the asteroid belt engagement with grim satisfaction. The coalition had reacted exactly as expected, probing what they perceived as the weakest point first, only to discover their intelligence catastrophically wrong. "Status of dome defenses?" she asked, pacing the underground command center beneath Olympus Colony. "All systems green, Commander," replied her chief engineer. 50 years of hiding artillery beneath greenhouses and gardens is about to pay off." The Martian colonies had always been humanity's showcase to the galaxy, open, beautiful, and seemingly vulnerable. Dome cities sparkled across the red landscape, filled with gardens, universities, and cultural centers. The coalition had found it impossible to believe that such transparent, aesthetically pleasing structures could hide anything of military significance. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Coalition Response Fleet has altered course," announced Tactical. 20 vessels diverted from the main armada, on direct approach to Mars. ETA 4 hours. Rodriguez nodded. "Right on schedule. Alert all dome commanders. Final civilian evacuations to subsurface shelters. I want every non-military personnel underground before the coalition arrives." For the next 3 hours, Mars's colony domes continued their serene appearance as thousands of civilians moved into the underground complexes that had been built concurrently with the surface structures, another secret kept from prying galactic eyes. "Coalition fleet entering Martian orbit," Tactical reported. "They're deploying atmospheric craft. Appears they intend to occupy rather than bombard." "Of course they do," Rodriguez replied. "They want our infrastructure intact. Maintain passive posture until they reach the surface." Through the command center's monitors, Rodriguez watched as coalition landing craft descended through the thin Martian atmosphere, setting down outside the main entrance to Olympus Colony. Ground forces, primarily hegemony shock troops with crystalline technical specialists, deployed in textbook formation, approaching the dome with weapons ready, but not yet firing. "They're broadcasting demands for surrender," communications reported. "Send the prepared response," Rodriguez ordered. "Make us sound terrified but compliant." The coalition forces, emboldened by the apparent capitulation, moved closer to the dome entrances. Inside, automated systems tracked their every movement, targeting solutions already locked. "They're at the primary access points," Tactical announced. "All units in optimal firing positions." Rodriguez took a deep breath. "Execute Phase 2. Across the surface of Mars, the peaceful colony domes transformed. Sections of transparent material turned opaque as weapon systems emerged from hidden compartments. Gardens retracted into the ground, revealing missile silos and artillery emplacements. University buildings shifted configuration, becoming command and control centers. The coalition ground forces froze in confusion as the supposedly defenseless colony morphed before their eyes. "All weapon systems online," Tactical reported. "Target locks confirmed." "Fire," Rodriguez ordered simply. The first barrage eliminated 80% of the coalition ground forces before they could react. The second disabled their landing craft. The third, directed upward into orbit, caught their support vessels completely unprepared. "Coalition ships attempting emergency maneuvers," Tactical reported. "Their targeting systems are struggling to lock onto our defenses, stealth coding functioning as designed." Rodriguez watched the battle unfold with clinical detachment. Within minutes, the coalition force that had intended to occupy Mars found itself in disarray, caught between ground-based weapons they hadn't known existed and the suddenly hostile void of space. "They're retreating," Tactical announced. 17 vessels destroyed or disabled, 3 attempting to withdraw. "Let them go," Rodriguez ordered. "Same as the asteroid belt, we need messengers." As the surviving coalition ships broke orbit, Rodriguez opened a channel to Luna Command. "Mars, defense successful. Phase 2 complete. 20 ships destroyed or disabled, 3 retreating. Be advised, Coalition main fleet will likely bypass further probing actions and proceed directly to Luna." Dr. Kate Sullivan's response came through clearly. "Understood. Mars, Luna is ready. Time to show them what we've really been building up here." The Moon had always been humanity's most visible military presence, the one place where Earth had openly constructed what appeared to be defensive installations. The Coalition had long ago catalogued and dismissed these apparent defenses as outdated, minimal, and largely ceremonial. What they didn't know was that the visible structures were merely the tip of the iceberg. Dr. Kate Sullivan stood in the cavernous main control room of Tranquility Base, 300 meters beneath the lunar surface. Around her, thousands of technicians and officers monitored the status of what had been Earth's most closely guarded secret for 50 years, the Luna Project. "Coalition main fleet has altered course," reported her Strategic Operations Director. "They've abandoned the incremental approach. 800 vessels now on direct trajectory to lunar orbit." Sullivan nodded. The asteroid belt and Mars had delivered the message perfectly. Enough resistance to be surprising, but not enough to suggest Earth's full capabilities. The Coalition was now committing a significant force to what they believed would be the decisive battle for Earth's inner defenses. "Status of the lunar fleet?" she asked. "All 10,000 vessels at ready status," came the reply. "Bays 1 through 250 prepared for immediate deployment. Quantum disruptors charged and synchronized." Sullivan allowed herself a moment of pride. 10,000 warships, hidden in underground hangars across the lunar surface. 50 years of secret construction, with materials and components smuggled in, disguised as scientific equipment and luxury goods. The greatest military buildup in human history, conducted entirely beneath the notice of galactic observers. "Time to Coalition fleet arrival?" she asked. "Approximately 6 hours, Dr. Sullivan." "Alert Admiral Harrison. Prepare all bay doors for simultaneous opening on my command." Throughout the lunar installation, final preparations accelerated. The ships of Earth's hidden fleet, sleek, advanced vessels bearing little resemblance to the antiquated defensive craft visible on the surface, performed final systems checks. Weapon platforms powered up, shield generators hummed to life. "Message from the Vigilant." Communications announced, Ambassador Phillips and Captain Morrison have arrived and are en route to command. Sullivan nodded. Guide them in. 15 minutes later, Karen Phillips and Jake Morrison entered the control center, their expressions grim but determined. Dr. Sullivan, Karen greeted her. I see Luna is ready for visitors. More than ready, Ambassador, Sullivan replied. 50 years of preparation is about to pay off. And the Coalition has no idea what's waiting for them, Morrison added, studying the tactical displays with a professional eye. Their fleet formation indicates confidence bordering on arrogance. That arrogance ends today, Sullivan said firmly. Admiral Harrison reports all vessels ready for deployment. We're just waiting for the Coalition to commit fully to lunar orbit. Karen moved to the main viewing window, looking out at the desolate lunar landscape. I tried to warn them, she said quietly. I gave them every chance to withdraw. They chose not to listen, Morrison replied. That's on them, not you. The hours passed in tense anticipation. Throughout the Earth-Luna system, final preparations continued. On Earth itself, the seemingly outdated orbital platforms maintained their disguise, while quietly bringing advanced weapon systems online. The museum ships of Earth's visible navy, vessels deliberately kept in service long past their technological prime as part of the deception, prepared for their own transformation. Coalition fleet entering lunar orbit, announced Tactical. 827 vessels in attack formation. On the main display, the Coalition Armada appeared as a swarm of red markers spreading across lunar orbit. Their formation was precise, their confidence evident in their positioning. Their broadcasting, communications reported. War Prime Zethor wishes to speak with Earth's leadership. Karen straightened her uniform. Put him through. The massive reptilian figure of Zethor appeared on the main screen. Mandibles spread in what passed for a smile among his kind. Ambassador Phillips, I see you've chosen to meet your defeat from the safety of your lunar base. Admirable, but futile. War Prime, Karen acknowledged coolly. I see you've chosen to ignore our warning. Warning? Zethor laughed. Your pitiful resistance in the asteroid belt and Mars was surprising, but hardly concerning. You've merely delayed the inevitable and sacrificed lives unnecessarily. I gave you 72 hours to withdraw, Karen reminded him. You still have 24 remaining. I urge you again, leave our system while you can. Your time has expired, human, Zethor replied dismissively. We have seen your defenses. We have measured your resistance. You have nothing more to show us. Karen's expression hardened. You're wrong about that. War Prime. Dr. Sullivan, deploy the Luna project. Sullivan nodded to her operations team. Open all bay doors. Launch the fleet. Across the lunar surface, what had appeared to be simple crater rims, research outposts, and waste disposal areas suddenly split open. Massive bay doors, disguised by holographic technology and sensor-absorbing materials, retracted to reveal cavernous hangars beneath. From these hidden bays, ships began to rise, not in dozens or hundreds, but thousands. Wave after wave of advanced warships, each bearing the insignia of Earth's unified defense force, ascended into lunar orbit. Sleek destroyers, massive carriers, specialized attack craft, support vessels bristling with weapons that Coalition intelligence had deemed decades beyond human capability. On the view screen, War Prime Zethor's mandibles went slack as his tactical officers delivered the impossible news. Behind him, Admiral Valina's crystalline form dimmed in shock. Even the shadowy presence of General Mordak seemed to recoil. This... Zethor struggled to find words. This is impossible. Our intelligence was exactly what we wanted you to see. Karen finished for him. For 50 years, Earth has presented the face of a peaceful, open, minimally defended civilization, all while building this. The lunar fleet continued to deploy, taking up strategic positions around the moon and between the Coalition Armada and Earth. 10,000 vessels against the Coalition's 800. Your 72 hours isn't up yet. War Prime, Karen said calmly. I renew my offer. Withdraw now, and no further action will be taken against your forces. Zethor's shock gave way to rage. This changes nothing. Our ships are technologically superior. Our crews better trained. Your numerical advantage is meaningless against our capabilities. Are you certain of that? Karen asked. Captain Morrison, please contact Captain Fox. It's time to drop the holo-camouflage on our orbital fleet as well. Morrison nodded and transmitted the order. On Earth. Captain Mary Fox stood on the bridge of what appeared to be the ancient cruiser, Defiant, a 200-year-old vessel maintained as part of Earth's historical fleet. At Morrison's signal, she gave the command that 50 years of deception had been building toward. Disengage holographic disguise, she ordered. All ships, reveal true configuration. Throughout Earth orbit, what had appeared to be outdated cruisers, antiquated frigates, and ceremonial defense platforms shimmered and transformed. The holographic disguises, maintained even during routine maintenance to preserve the deception, fell away to reveal vessels every bit as advanced as those emerging from the lunar surface. Earth orbital fleet reporting ready. Captain Morrison, Fox's voice came through clearly. 5,000 vessels, weapons hot, awaiting orders. On the command screen, Zethor's rage transformed into something else, the first flickers of fear. 15,000 ships, he muttered. Hidden. Impossible. Not impossible, Karen corrected. Just patient. This is your final warning. War Prime. The next communication from Earth will be weapons fire. Zethor cut the transmission abruptly. On the tactical display, the Coalition fleet began emergency maneuvers, attempting to regroup into a defensive formation. They're charging weapons. Tactical reported. Coalition flagship is signaling all vessels to attack. Karen turned to Sullivan and Morrison. They've made their choice. Sullivan nodded grimly. All fleet commanders. This is Dr. Kate Sullivan. The Coalition has chosen engagement. Commence Operation Clean Sweep. Throughout the Earth-Luna system, humanity's hidden fleet moved with practiced precision. Ships that had trained for this moment in secret for decades executed maneuvers that caught the Coalition forces completely off guard. Dr. Rachel Green's quantum sensor network is online, reported Tactical. All Coalition vessels tagged and tracked. No cloaked ships will escape detection. The battle was joined in earnest as Coalition vessels fired the first salvos. Their weapons, powerful by galactic standards, impacted against shields far more advanced than they had believed humans capable of creating. Humanity's response was devastating. Lunar attack wings executed pinpoint strikes against Coalition command ships. Earth's orbital fleet deployed quantum disruptors, weapons that literally erased portions of space-time, causing sections of enemy vessels to simply cease existing. The hidden fleet from Mars, now revealed, closed the distance from behind, catching Coalition forces in a perfect three-dimensional trap. Coalition forces attempting to regroup around their flagship. Tactical reported. They're preparing to deploy their planet killer beam. Karen's expression darkened. The weapon they used on Proxima Centauri's colonies. They would use that here? Desperation, Morrison observed grimly. They know they're outmatched. Sullivan looked to her chief science officer. Is the barrier array ready? Yes, Doctor. Earth is fully protected. On the tactical display, the Coalition flagship opened massive apertures along its hull, energy building to catastrophic levels. The target was clear, Earth itself. All fleet vessels, clear the path between the Coalition flagship and Earth, Sullivan ordered. Let them think they have a shot. Human ships parted, creating a corridor of open space between the Coalition flagship and the blue planet. Taking the apparent opportunity, the flagship fired, a blinding beam of destructive energy that could shatter a planet's crust. It never reached its target. Between Earth and the oncoming beam, the atmosphere itself seemed to ripple. The previously invisible barrier array, a network of quantum field generators, hidden in low orbit, activated. The planet killer beam struck the barrier and rebounded. Its energy redirected back at the Coalition fleet in a fan of destructive force. The results were catastrophic for the Coalition. 27 ships, including 3 major command vessels, were vaporized instantly. Dozens more suffered critical damage. The flagship itself, caught in the peripheral effect of its own weapon, listed heavily to one side, power systems failing. Coalition forces, breaking formation. Tactical reported, unable to keep a note of triumph from their voice. Multiple vessels attempting emergency jumps. Gravity wells active, Sullivan confirmed. No one leaves until we decide this is over. For the next hour, Earth's combined fleet methodically dismantled what remained of the Coalition armada. Ships that surrendered were spared. Those that continued fighting were disabled with surgical precision. Throughout it all, Karen Phillips watched in silence, the weight of the day's events evident in her eyes. When the last Coalition vessel had either surrendered or been neutralized, she finally spoke. Casualties? Minimal on our side, Morrison reported. 342 confirmed dead, approximately 800 wounded, 12 ships lost, 43 requiring major repairs. And the Coalition? Approximately 60,000 dead, nearly 200 ships destroyed outright, the remainder disabled or surrendered. Karen closed her eyes briefly. Have War Prime Zethor, Admiral Valena, and General Mordak brought to the Vigilant. President Blake and Admiral Jennifer Stone will meet us there to discuss terms. As Karen left the command center, followed by Morrison, Dr. Sullivan turned to her staff. Maintain alert status. This isn't over until surrender documents are signed. The conference room aboard the Vigilant was deliberately sparse. A single oval table with Earth's representatives on one side and the Coalition leaders on the other. The 3 alien commanders, stripped of weapons and communications devices, sat in silence as President Dan Blake studied them thoughtfully. You know, Blake began conversationally, Ambassador Phillips gave you every opportunity to avoid this outcome. She warned you explicitly. She gave you time to reconsider. She offered peaceful withdrawal even after our lunar fleet was revealed. He shook his head. Such a waste. War Prime Zethor, his scales dulled with defeat, glared across the table. You deceived the entire galaxy, hid your true capabilities, presented yourselves as peaceful, open, minimally defended. No civilization does this. Ours did. Admiral Jennifer Stone replied simply, because we observed how your coalition treats those who display their strength openly. They become targets for elimination before they can become threats. So we chose a different path. For 50 years, Karen added, Earth has maintained the appearance of a minor power while building in secret. We studied your tactics, your technologies, your weaknesses. We prepared specifically for this confrontation. But why? Admiral Valena asked. Her crystalline form dimmed with exhaustion. Why not simply join the coalition as a client species? You would have been protected, guided, subjugated, Blake corrected. We've seen how the coalition guides its client species, how the hegemony strips resources from worlds until they're barren, how the crystalline dominion experiments on lesser beings, how the void seekers infiltrate and manipulate governments. We chose independence, Stone continued, and we were prepared to defend that choice. General Mordak, his shadowy form barely visible, spoke for the first time. What happens now? Annihilation, as you threatened. The coalition spans 500 worlds. You cannot occupy them all. We have no intention of trying, Karen replied. Earth's policy has always been defensive, not expansionist. We don't want your worlds or your resources. We want to be left alone to develop on our own terms. President Blake slid a datapad across the table. These are our terms, non-negotiable. Zethor reluctantly picked up the pad, his eyes widening as he read. This is unexpected. Read it aloud, Blake instructed, so there can be no misunderstanding. Zethor cleared his throat. The coalition acknowledges Earth and all human colonies as sovereign territory, exempt from coalition authority or interference. A demilitarized zone of 20 light-years will be established around human space. Coalition forces will withdraw from this zone within 30 days. He continued reading, his voice betraying increasing surprise. In exchange, Earth will share specific technological advancements with cooperative species, including medical technology, agricultural systems, and clean energy production. Earth will not share weapons technology or defensive systems. Earth will establish trading relationships with any willing coalition worlds on mutually beneficial terms. Zethor looked up in confusion. You're offering alliance after we attempted to conquer you? Not alliance, Karen corrected. Cooperation. There's a difference. We have no interest in your internal politics or how you govern your worlds. We simply want peaceful coexistence and fair trade. And if we refuse? Velena asked. Admiral Stone's expression hardened. Then we demonstrate why hiding our capabilities for 50 years was merely the opening move in a much longer game. Blake nodded toward the viewport, where the remains of the coalition fleet drifted in Luna's orbit. You came with 5,000 ships. We destroyed or captured nearly 1,000 today, using perhaps 40% of our total capabilities. The coalition has 4,000 ships remaining, spread across 500 worlds. Earth has 20,000, concentrated in one system. The math is simple, Karen added quietly. Accept peace on generous terms, or face war you cannot win. The three coalition leaders exchanged glances. Even Mordak, master of deception, recognized the truth of the situation. We will sign, Zethor finally said. The coalition accepts Earth's terms. 6 months later, Karen Phillips stood on the observation deck of Starbase Unity, Earth's first permanent installation beyond the solar system. Beside her, Captain Jake Morrison watched as construction vessels completed work on the massive structure. Hard to believe how much has changed, Morrison commented, gesturing toward the view screen where coalition trading vessels waited patiently for clearance to dock. 6 months ago, they wanted to conquer us. Now they're lining up to trade. Karen nodded. Fear and respect are powerful motivators, but genuine cooperation is beginning to take root. The medical technologies we've shared have already saved millions of lives across coalition space. And the coalition has kept its word, Morrison added. The demilitarized zone remains clear. Their patrol ships give our boundaries wide berth. Some lessons need to be taught only once, Karen replied. Earth warned them we were holding back. They chose not to listen. And now? Karen turned as the first rays of the system's sun crested the horizon, bathing the starbase in golden light. Now, we build something better than conquest. Something better than deception. We build a future where strength doesn't need to hide, and peace doesn't mean submission. Morrison smiled. 50 years of secrets coming to an end. Not all secrets, Karen corrected with a small smile. Dr. Sullivan's quantum fold technology remains under wraps. Some advantages are worth keeping in reserve. Just in case? Just in case, Karen agreed. Peace through strength isn't just an ancient saying. It's how humanity survived its first galactic crisis. As the sun rose fully over the starbase, illuminating both Earth vessels and former coalition ships now engaged in peaceful trade, Karen Phillips allowed herself to feel genuine hope for the first time in decades. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson about underestimating humanity. It was a lesson Karen doubted anyone would need to learn twice.